For all its beauty and splendor, the wilderness can be a cruel teacher. You go into the canyon because you think you know it. You think you understand the rock, the way the water carved it, the way the rope holds. You think your hands are strong enough, your feet sure enough. You think your brother will always be there to catch you. Then, the canyon teaches you different. The canyon is not your friend. It is the thing that will break you if you are not strong enough. And even if you are strong enough, it might break you anyway. Let's venture back to the savage wilderness where survival is earned, not given. This is outdoor disasters. For Justin and Jermey Harris, the canyoneering adventure would be a disaster. Jermey has always looked up to his older brother Justin. Hiking has been their bond since childhood, and it has tied them together in a way that few brothers have experienced. On Saturday, November 22nd, 2003, the canyoneering adventure was set. 50 miles from the nearest town, deep into a remote canyon in southern Utah known as the Baptist Draw, a popular technical canyoneering route in the San Rafael Swell. They wanted a new challenge, something harder than before, the kind of adventure that tested them. They camped under the cold November sky. The morning came sharp, the air freezing. It had been a while since their last hike, and the season had crept later than intended. Winter hiking wasn't new to them, but it made everything more complicated. The cold, the ice, the way time moved slower when fingers were stiff and breaths came shallow. As the older brother, Justin knew the decision was his. They had come all this way. There was no turning back now. The descent began. Baptist Draw first, then Upper Chute Canyon. The land dropped 500 feet beneath them. The only way out was through a side canyon at Chute Junction. They had to finish before dark. The canyon was no place for mistakes, and it was no place to be stranded after sundown. They moved quickly, stepping from rock to rock, easing down ledges. The sandstone walls stretched high, carved by ancient seas and relentless floods. Chokestones, massive boulders wedged tight, blocked their path in places. They had to climb over and move around. Slow work. The hours slipped by. Then came the rappel. A sheer drop, no way around. The temperature had fallen with the light, the cold now deep in their bones. Justin had never rappelled before, never even worn a harness. It was a hard drop, one that wouldn't forgive mistakes. Justin went first, securing himself, lowering carefully. When his feet hit the ground, the weight of the descent lifted. Jermey followed, cautious but steady. When he reached the bottom, relief settled in. It hadn't been as bad as expected, but they were running late. The canyon had taken longer than planned. There was no way to turn back now. Once a rappel was done, they grabbed the rope, ensuring there was no way to backtrack. The only way was forward. They quickened their pace. The canyon stretched ahead, the walls darkening as the last light faded. Then, without warning, the path was blocked. A chokestone, massive, unmoving. It wasn't on the map. There was no easy way past it. Time was slipping away. The pressure mounted. They needed to keep moving. Jermey spotted a possible route. The rock looked solid. He climbed without the safety harness, sure of his grip and confident in the hold. Then he slipped. Justin rushes in an attempt to save him, but it's too late. Justin dangles on the rope for a moment and then drops down into a pool. I remember when I heard that splash. That was the last thing I wanted to hear at that point, Justin recalls. Jermey surfaces and is uninjured, but Jermey is completely drenched, making hypothermia a concern. It's the end of November in Utah, and temperatures are below freezing. With no way to backtrack, they're forced to pick up the pace and complete their circular route out the canyon before dark. Dusk is just 3 hours away, and the temperature is dropping fast. The pace quickened after that, no time to waste. The cold pressed down harder, the canyon closing in. They pushed forward, but the canyon pushed back. The wind picked up. The sky darkened. A blizzard rolled in fast, thick snow swallowing the ground in minutes. The next chokestone loomed ahead, another obstacle, another delay. Below it, a pool of black water. The canyon wasn't letting up. The climb down wasn't far, but it was treacherous. Few holds, almost no footing. The snow made it worse, slippery, unstable. Justin moved first. He tested his footing, feeling for a solid hold, then eased himself down. The rock was slick. Then he slipped. Luckily, Jermey was there to grab his hand, as he was surely going to fall. Disaster avoided, or so they thought. Justin was desperately holding on, as it was the only firm thing he had to hold on to. Feeling a shift in his movement and believing he was gonna jump to the floor because it really wasn't that far, I let go, Jermey recalled. A disastrous mistake. Then Justin was falling. The impact sent a crack through the canyon walls. A hollow, wet sound. The scream followed. A sound Jermey had never heard before. The kind that dug into the bones. The kind that meant something was broken. Justin hit the water hard, half submerged in the icy pool. He knew before he could even look. His leg was gone. Shattered. The worst pain of his life. He couldn't stop screaming. Couldn't catch his breath. It was everything at once. Cold. Pain. Fear. Jermey moved fast, pulling him from the water, but there was nothing to be done. The leg was ruined. The shin bone splintered in 6 places. Blood pooled inside, swelling the muscle compartments and cutting off circulation. The damage went deeper than either of them knew. It was more than an injury. It was a death sentence if they didn't act fast. Justin saw it in Jermey's face. The fear. The helplessness. They had never been in a situation like this before. And now, for the first time, Jermey had to lead. There was no other way. They both knew what had to be done. Jermey had to go. He had to climb out alone, had to find help. I was going to leave him there and hike out, which is really hard to do for the fact that, 1, it's my brother that I know and love very much, and 2, that real soon I'm going to be by myself, Jermey proclaimed. If Justin was going to survive, it was all on him. I remember saying, "Well, we better take a picture of each other if we don't ever see each other again," Jermey said. Jermey takes a picture of Justin and Jermey does the same, proclaiming, "I thought that maybe I might never see him again, and I thought he might never see me again," and those things go through your head. Justin, driven by sheer determination and desperation, sets off on a race against time. His brother's life depends on it. What should have been a straightforward trek back to the car quickly becomes a brutal fight against the canyon itself. The daylight fades and the cold creeps in fast. Every step is slower. Every breath is harder. The canyon twists and turns, a labyrinth of rock and water. As the last light vanishes, Justin sees nothing ahead. No sign of the side canyon, no way out, only the dark closing in. The realization crashes down on him like the walls of stone around him. He is lost, and time is running out. When it went from light to dark, it was so hard to conceive how far I'd gone, but I kept thinking that I had gone too far. And I ran into pools, and lots of them. At that point, I didn't have a choice of whether I would get wet or not. What I was looking for was the last canyon that would take me back to near where we started. Jermey had kept the trail notes tucked in the side pocket of his pants, a detail that seemed insignificant, until it wasn't. The zipper had been open. He hadn't realized. Not until he looked down and saw the murky water rushing in, sweeping the notes away before he could react. The water was thick with mud, impossible to see through. He dropped to his knees, plunging his hands into the icy pool, searching blindly, fingers scraping over smooth stones and shifting silt. He probed deeper, frantic, but the notes were gone, swallowed by the canyon just like everything else that had fought against it. He had no choice. He pressed on, each step heavier than the last. 5 hours had passed since he left Justin behind, broken and bleeding in the canyon depths. By now, he should have reached the car. He should have been calling for help, but the landscape stretched on ahead, unfamiliar and unrelenting. The exit was nowhere in sight. Jermey was running out of time, and so was his brother. Meanwhile, deep in the canyon, Justin was beginning to grasp the true severity of his injury. A strange sensation crept through his shattered leg, something different from the constant throb of pain. He hadn't looked at it in a while, but now as he glanced down, A wave of unease settled over him. His skin had changed. Large blisters had surfaced, swollen and stretched tight, their fluid glistening in the dim light. One by one they ruptured, spilling down his leg in thin, sticky rivulets. The swelling had worsened, his flesh expanding against itself, tight and unrelenting. He didn't know exactly what it meant, but he knew it couldn't be good. The pressure had built to a breaking point. The force of the swelling had ruptured veins and capillaries, forcing blood and fluids to pool beneath the skin. The fracture blisters were a warning, a sign of the body fighting against itself. If infection set in, it wouldn't just be his leg at risk, it would be his life. As the hours went by, Justin endured pain and freezing conditions for over 13 hours. His body was failing, his metabolism slowing to a dangerous point. If he lost consciousness now, he wouldn't wake up. The thought haunted him. Sleep meant death. He had to stay sharp, had to keep his mind from slipping into shock. His body was shutting down, but his mind still had a fight left in it. He needed something, anything, to keep himself anchored. He focused on his family, his wife, his 4 children, their names, their birth dates. He forced himself to say them in his head over and over again. A ritual, a test. If he could repeat them 100 times without forgetting, without losing focus, then he was still in control. The numbers cycled through his mind, a lifeline in the darkness. Then, he hesitated. He lost track. The realization struck him like a fist to the gut. He was slipping. His mind was slipping. Panic surged through him. This was his worst fear. Desperation took over. As unbearable as the pain was, he had no choice. He had to move. He braced himself, teeth clenched, and forced his shattered leg to bear weight. Agony ripped through him, nerves firing like electric shocks straight to his knee. The pain was overwhelming, blinding, but it did what he needed it to do. It woke him up. It kept him alive. Jermey had been searching for the side canyon exit for over 9 hours. The darkness pressed in around him, swallowing the landscape in shadow. He was lost. His trail notes were gone, swept away by the freezing water, and the cold had taken hold of him. Wet clothes clung to his skin, draining what little warmth he had left. The exhaustion was relentless, a weight that pulled at his limbs and clouded his mind. Every step forward felt like a battle against his own body. It seemed impossible that things could get worse, and yet they did. The cold wasn't just biting, it was consuming him. He wasn't simply wet anymore, he was frozen. Ice formed on his clothing, layering over him in thin, brittle sheets. He had to stop every few minutes just to break it off, just to keep moving. His muscles screamed with fatigue, his body begging for rest, but stopping meant freezing to death. His body was failing. If he collapsed now, the canyon would take him. The hypothermia would set in quickly, and there would be no coming back from it. He needed warmth. He needed rest. Then, he spotted driftwood, dry enough to burn. With shaking hands, he built a fire, piling the wood high, desperate for heat. The flames roared to life, and he sank as close as he dared, nearly lying in the fire just to feel something, anything, other than cold. For a moment, there was relief. For a moment, he felt dry, but guilt gnawed at him. Every second spent by the fire was another second wasted. Justin was still out there, alone, broken, waiting. He needed to get moving. He knew that, but the exhaustion won. Before he realized it, his body had given in. Sleep overtook him. When he woke, panic shot through him. Something was wrong. Heat licked at his skin, hotter than before. The fire crackled too close. Then, the smell of burning fabric hit him. His clothes were on fire. He scrambled back, frantically patting out the flames. His pants were scorched, his jacket charred, nearly ruined. The fire had almost taken him, but somehow, miraculously, he hadn't burned himself. He pulled himself together, shaking off the last remnants of sleep and pain. There was no more time to waste. Jermey turned back toward the canyon, toward the unknown, and pushed forward. Jermey knew he should have been out of the canyon hours ago. The exhaustion was bone deep, but it wasn't until he came across a series of sheer descents that the reality of his situation fully set in. He was lost. Completely lost. Somewhere along the way, he had veered off course, but he never saw it happen. The realization struck him like a punch to the gut. The trail notes, now lost to the canyon, had made no mention of steep climbs before the exit. Nothing about sheer drops, nothing about terrain this treacherous. He had gone the wrong way. Even in daylight, the climb ahead would be brutal. In the dark, without ropes or proper equipment, it was nearly suicidal. But there was no choice. If he stopped now, if he gave up, Justin would die. That was the only thing that mattered. His mind was unraveling. He wasn't thinking straight. He knew that. But he had to keep moving, had to talk to someone, even if there was no one there. The silence pressed in, his thoughts tumbling over themselves, frantic, desperate. Was he sure this was the right way? Was he making things worse? 16 hours had passed since he left Justin. The canyon had swallowed him whole, leading him deeper when he needed to go up. Then ahead he saw it, a massive chokestone blocking the path. He climbed to the top of it, peering down, a sheer 60-foot drop, a black pool of freezing water at the bottom. There was no way around it, no rope, no harness, no way to climb back up if he went down. His mind latched onto one thought: jump. He was beyond exhaustion. Too cold, too hungry, too desperate to think clearly. His brain told him to move, to keep going at any cost. He picked up a rock and hurled it off the ledge. He watched it fall through the air, tumbling down, vanishing into the black water below. The moment it hit, his mind snapped back into focus. The idea of jumping had been pure insanity, a death sentence. His plan shifted instantly. He had to go back to Justin, back to the only other person in this canyon who mattered. He turned around, his body screaming in protest. Then another realization hit him. Getting back meant climbing up the steep cliffs he had barely managed to descend the night before. Cliffs that had drained every ounce of strength from him when he was fresh. Now, broken and exhausted, he would have to do the impossible. Jermey had been climbing through the canyon for over 24 hours, pushing his body beyond exhaustion. Every muscle burned, every movement felt impossible, but he couldn't stop. He wasn't climbing for himself anymore. He was climbing for Justin. The rock walls were brutal, draining him with each pull upward. He would make it partway up, only to feel his strength falter, forcing him to cling desperately to the stone. It was some of the hardest climbing he had ever done. His body screamed for rest, but rest meant failure. Failure meant death. So Jermey kept climbing, even as his mind blurred from exhaustion. Looking back, he would remember those final ascents as something beyond his ability. They should have been impossible. But somewhere inside, beyond reason, beyond breaking, he found something. Strength he didn't know he had, a force that carried him forward when everything else should have failed. And then, there it was, the side canyon, the way out. He had missed it the night before, swallowed by darkness and exhaustion. Now, in daylight, it was unmistakable. He couldn't understand how he had overlooked something so obvious, but he knew the answer. His mind had been unraveling, his thoughts clouded by fear and fatigue. Finally, he had a way out. Finally, he could reach the car and call for help, but it might already be too late for Justin. Navigating the wilderness, Jermey searched desperately for their camp, knowing every second mattered. Then, through the haze of exhaustion, he saw it. Red and yellow, standing out against the landscape, Justin's car and his bright yellow rainfly. Clear as day. Relief slammed into him like a wave, and his legs gave out. He dropped to his knees, overwhelmed with gratitude, whispering his thanks to whatever force had kept him alive. Then, the image vanished. There was nothing there. His mind had betrayed him, projecting what he needed to see instead of reality. He was so exhausted, so dehydrated, that his brain had begun conserving energy by fabricating familiar images, hallucinations of salvation that weren't real. The roller coaster of hope and despair continued, dragging him deeper into the brink of collapse. Jermey had made it out of the canyon, but now he couldn't tell where to go. The wilderness stretched in all directions, vast and unrelenting. Justin was still out there, dying, and time was slipping away. He had gone far beyond his limits, past anything he had imagined possible. He was barely holding on, but somehow, through sheer will, he found his way back to camp. When he truly saw it this time, he didn't know whether to believe it. He barely had time to process his own condition. He was a wreck, barely alive but still breathing, still moving. What should have taken 5 hours had taken more than 26. Jermey fumbled for his phone, his hands trembling, his body swaying from exhaustion. He lifted it over his head, desperately searching for a signal. Nothing, no service. Justin was still out there, and help was still out of reach. Justin has survived so far by pure determination and faith that his brother will return with help and end his ordeal. I'm sitting there, going through the hours and the calculations in my mind, and I'm feeling really good about where I'm at, and I'm feeling great about where Jeremy's at. I'm thinking in my mind that he's probably back to camp, and he's got help coming, and I'm gonna get out of here, and I'm gonna have one heck of a story to tell. And hopefully my wife won't kill me when I get home, and I'm laying there, and I'm just about as relaxed as I've been the whole time, and then the sun goes away, Justin recalls. He was losing the battle, not just to survive, but to believe that his brother was still alive. The thought of Jermey haunted him. He pictured him somewhere out in the dark, frozen, lost, unable to go on. The cold had been brutal, relentless. Had it been too much? Had his brother collapsed somewhere too exhausted to move? The doubt crept in, slow at first, then suffocating. Maybe Jermey was gone. Maybe he wasn't coming back. Hope was slipping away, but Justin knew that giving in meant dying here, alone. He had to stay awake. If he let himself drift, he wouldn't wake up. His body craved rest, begged for it, the exhaustion weighing down on him like a boulder. Lying down, closing his eyes. It would be so easy. Instead, he forced himself to think smaller. One more hour. He could last one more hour. And when that hour passed, he fought for the next one. Time stretched and blurred, each moment an unbearable test. Justin didn't know if his brother was still out there. But if he gave up now, none of it would matter. Then, out of the corner of his eye, Justin saw movement. A face appeared from behind a boulder. For a moment, neither of them reacted. Just two people equally stunned to see each other in this unforgiving canyon. Then, the voice cut through the silence. "We found him." The words hit like a rush of air after nearly drowning. They were here. Rescue had made it down. The nightmare was ending. Justin barely had time to process the relief before the next thought hit him. "Jermey, is he okay?" he asked. His brother had fought through the canyon, through impossible conditions, to bring help. The response was almost casual. He had gotten into a little disagreement with the canyon over who was tougher. "He's going to be okay." The emotion crashed over Justin all at once. Jermey had made it. He was alive. And now, Justin was getting out of here too. The medics moved in quickly, but carefully. One of them cut away his pant leg, exposing the injury. The reaction was immediate. A sharp inhale, a flicker of something unreadable in their expression. Justin could tell right then. This was worse than he thought. Diane, one of the rescuers, recognized the condition immediately. Acute compartment syndrome. The swelling had become so extreme that his capillaries had collapsed entirely, cutting off blood flow. The nerve and muscle cells were dying from lack of oxygen. And worse, if the built-up acids in his leg were released too quickly into his system, his heart could fail. This wasn't just about losing a leg anymore. This was about survival. Justin asked how bad it was. The answer came with a dose of morphine. That was all he needed to hear. If they were giving him the strong stuff before moving him, things were serious. Reality set in. He had been holding on, forcing himself to believe he was in better shape than he was. But now there was no denying it. He was worse off than he'd allowed himself to believe. And now, he was at the mercy of those trying to save him. They strapped him in, preparing for the climb out. Lying flat on his back, Justin finally took in his surroundings. The canyon, the place they had fought so hard to escape, stretched out around him. He had barely noticed it before, too focused on pain and survival. Now, he saw it for what it was. Beautiful, vast, indifferent. As they reached the top of the canyon wall, faces appeared. People he didn't know, all looking down at him, smiling. Relief, gratitude, exhaustion. It all blurred together. Then someone held out a phone. "Justin, you want to talk to your wife?" For the first time in what felt like a lifetime, Justin heard his wife's voice. "Hey, are you okay?" His answer came easily, the only words that mattered. "Yeah, I'm alive. I love you, and I'm alive." Jeremy and Justin were reunited at the hospital in Salt Lake City. At first, Jeremy believed the worst was behind them. Surgery would fix Justin's leg, and soon enough he would be fine. But the reality was far from that simple. Justin spent 90 grueling days in the hospital, enduring 13 operations in a desperate attempt to save his leg. In the end, it wasn't enough. The damage was too severe, the toll too great. Losing the leg was inevitable. Even after surviving the canyon, the weight of it all remained. The guilt lingered, knowing they had lived through something they shouldn't have, something that had pushed them beyond their limits. But surviving together had forged something unbreakable. Jeremy and I lived through something that we shouldn't have, and the experience of it, the experience of going through that with someone is powerful, Justin proclaimed. Neither Justin nor Jeremy ever set foot in a canyon again. But the bond between them, tested by cold pain and the edge of death, was stronger than ever. But sadly, in 2016, Jeremy passed away after a long personal struggle with addiction. He was 43. He was known as a gentle, compassionate, sensitive man who left a positive impact on so many people who knew him. But on that November weekend in 2003, Jeremy and Justin beat the odds, and they had lived to tell the story. The experience of going through hell with another person changes what it means to be brothers, Jeremy proclaimed. "I think just being born of the same mother doesn't make you brothers. The term brother is a very sacred term to me, and Justin's definitely my brother." The canyon takes your time, steals your light, slows your steps until the walls close in and the cold grips your bones. It does not care that you are brothers. It does not care that you love each other. One mistake, one slip, and it will take one of you. Maybe both. When he falls, the sound is wrong. When he screams, it is worse. His leg is broken, twisted, ruined. You look at him and know you cannot carry him out. You look at the walls and know they do not care. Screaming wastes air and energy. The canyon swallows sound, and no one will hear you. Instead, you breathe. You keep your mind sharp. The body wants to shut down, but you cannot let it. You must stay warm. The cold will take you before anything else. Your body will slow, the blood will stop moving, and you will fall asleep. And then you will die. You must stay awake. Sleep is the end. The moment you close your eyes, the canyon will take you. Count something, names, numbers. Days you wish you had never set foot in this place, anything to keep the mind from slipping. You must wait. Time will stretch, the hunger will gnaw, and the thirst will turn your tongue to dust. You will feel yourself getting smaller, weaker, but you cannot give in. If you let go, if you stop fighting, the canyon will keep you. If your partner is fast, if he is strong, if he finds his way out and back in time, you live. If not, you become one of the many who succumb to an outdoor disaster. If you've made it this far, please consider clicking those subscribe and like buttons. Want more outdoor disasters content? Check out these videos, I believe you'll enjoy. Thank you for watching.